In a moment, we'll have you come for the camera for all those who are watching and for the recording. Well, it's hard to come back from that, but okay, great. Okay, good evening, everyone. And Rita and anyone else who might be watching online. Good evening to all of you. So we'll begin with a prayer. We will then listen. James reminded me that we have already used this song once in this series, but we will listen to the Om song again. And I said, I can't help it if Om is the answer to everything. What can we do about that? And then we'll have a brief meditation, and then we'll talk a little bit and share a little bit. So, let's begin with a prayer. Heavenly Father, Divine Mother, friend, beloved God, Jesus Christ, Babaji Krishna, Lahiri Mahashaya, Swami Sri Yukteswar, Paramhansa Yogananda Ji, saints of all religions, beloved friend Swami Kriyananda, we humbly bow before you all. Beloved masters, grant us divine memory, that we will always know the source of our inspiration, the essence of our being, and we will practice in a perfect way, expanding into that one true reality. Help us to learn again to vibrate perfectly with the song that is the Symphony of the Divine. Om Shanti. Amen. That's good, because I already think I'm hearing it. I think that's progress. It's broken.
This song is to Divine Mother in the form of Om, and it was written by Yogananda as a poem originally and then a song that he wrote, and it's called Om Song. It depicts the sounds that the meditating devotee hears deeply meditating as he rises through the different chakras and hears the sounds of the chakras. So listen for these sounds as we sing the song. Whence, Om, this soundless roar doth come, when drowseth matter's dreary drum, on shores of bliss Om booming breaks, all earth, all heaven, all body shakes. The bumblebee now hums along, baby Om doth softly sing his song. The call is sweet, 'tis time the watery God to meet. Cords bound to flesh are broken all, vibrations burst and meteors fall. The hustling heart, the boasting breath, no more shall cause the yogi's death. lies in darkness soft. The star divine is seen aloft. Subconscious dreams have gone to bed. 'Tis then that one doth hear Om's tread. Oh, upward climb the living tree. Hark to the cosmic symphony. From Om, the soundless roar from Om, the call for light or dark to roam. From Om, the music of the spheres. From Om, the mist of nature's tears. All things of earth and heaven declare. Om, Om, resounding everywhere. From Om, the music of the spheres. From Om, the mist of nature's tears. All things of earth and heaven declare. Om, Om, resounding everywhere.
Let's meditate together now for just a couple of minutes. See if we can, in a very short period, take that cosmic vibration from which we've all been made manifest and follow it up through the chakras to the point between the eyebrows, and once again expand into that blissful state of infinite consciousness. peace. Amen. So, here we are, and we are on class number 5 of a book study on Swamiji's book, The Secrets of Prosperity is the title of this one. I've been saying all along in both of the Secrets books that we've studied now that he has, it's truly masterful, and I mean that just the way I describe it, of putting a seed thought into every secret so one can find the whole of the spiritual path within each secret. And I think tonight, the secret for tonight, which I'm going to read to you in just a moment, is it was somehow a little more obvious, although not simple by any means, but it's always there. And as much as anything, the whole series, every time we come together, I'm just reminded of the extraordinary gift of having Swamiji in our lives as our teacher, to bring these teachings together in a way that feel utterly impossible. And then there it is. And at least for me, I realize he just has given me this life. There is no way that I just could never have known any of this without him. And how patient he was with us. So this is the 5th secret of prosperity. And it says, the secret of prosperity is the recognition of the part you play in the great symphony of life. For life will sustain you if you attune yourself to its harmonies. Recognition of the part you play in the great symphony of life, for life will sustain you if you attune yourself to its harmonies. Now, following in my great teacher's footsteps, anybody who is with Swamiji at all will know what I'm talking about. He never apologized for anything. I've said this before. Swamiji developed at least 1 year, maybe 2, some of you here might remember, he had a severe cough. He could not quit coughing. Every time he got up to speak, he would just cough and cough and cough. And he was sick. You could see he was sick. It was a long time. He never mentioned it. He interrupted himself constantly, and he never mentioned it. He would never apologize for anything. So I'm not going to apologize for anything, but I am going to say my body came back from Australia 2 days ago. My soul came back, but my mind didn't quite follow yet. So I'm saying it because there's much more depth to this secret than we might be able to share tonight. And if so, then we'll just revisit it in 2 weeks, because there's so many ways to understand. I think I just inadvertently deleted it. I did. So Lakshmi will pull it up for me again, because I want to keep, that's okay. Ellen has it. Thank you. It's not the picture. It's just when he talks about even the first part, the recognition you play in the great symphony of life. May I keep it for right now? Yeah. I have so many copies of this, but I never remember to bring it with me. That's crazy. It's so much sweeter than looking on the phone, too. Anyway, so we just came back from a 2-week pilgrimage, really, to Australia. There were 7 of us who joined, a group of Australians and a few people who came up from New Zealand. I keep saying up. I think it's up, but it might be over. I'm not sure. I never did look at the world map that I wanted to look at. But so we got back 2 days ago, and several of the people are here with me, and I may see if there's anything that you'd like to say actually earlier on in the talk than usual. So not just about the trip, because that we will share in a satsang, though, of course, we'll talk about the trip. But in what ways, what came back with you that resonates with this recognition of the part you play in the great symphony of life? And when I first read this, I thought how perfect I would just be able to fold the trip right in, because there is immediately for me a sense of great expansion, a feeling of expansion when I read that line. And this trip, and like all very powerful, deeply meaningful journeys, it does take time to, I always use the word coalesce, and in a way I think that's what I mean, to integrate all of the parts and the levels of this journey into our spiritual growth, because that's why we go on these trips. This was a little more about, it seemed at the beginning, teaching and sharing. We went to give what was the first live Kriya initiation ever in Australia, which was very powerful for me, at least. I'll be interested to hear what anybody else thinks. Even before I left, the knowing that we were going to do that. And then as soon as we were in Australia, it came to me, and when we have our satsang, I may repeat some of this, but it's so much a part of this teaching tonight, that we all stand in awe of the people who helped found Ananda Village. We hear these stories of the very first people that were there. We all know them. Jyotish knocked on Swamiji's door in San Francisco. Then they bought a little piece of land. Seva came right away, then Shivani. And they just knew right from the beginning that a great work was unfolding. I don't think there was ever a doubt, ever. Really, when you hear that and feel that, never a doubt in any of their minds about what was happening. I don't think they saw it in form necessarily. Swamiji did, but they knew that if they stayed with him, something great would happen. And of course, here we are, the product of all of the greatness that was laid down, those roots. But when the very first time we sat with this larger group in Australia, I realized, and I'm not exactly comparing it to all of Ananda and worldwide Ananda, but that everybody in that room was taking part in the beginning of something grand in Australia. And I still feel that. Australia is very different. Swamiji is not there, so there will be many things that are different. But there is a work that's happening there and that will continue to unfold as long as they and we bring our energy, our effort, our enthusiasm, our willingness to it. There's many more words that we could say. All of that, which is bigger, much more expansive than not just any one of us, but even then the group. Something happens when the whole group comes together and says, yes, we're here, we are going to do this. And many of the people in Australia, they're new. I mean, they're relatively new on this path, and they have not all of them by any means. There's Nar and Kalamali who are, excuse me, leading the work there, and they have some idea. And there's several other devotees they've been on the path for a while, and they've traveled around the Ananda world, which always changes your perspective. And it gives almost everyone, that experience, although we can't quantify it in words, or no matter how big my arms go, it won't demonstrate it. But just how big this work is, just how big the world of spirit is, and what it means to take it from a small beginning on the material plane, very much like here we are, a small material, physical manifestation of the vast truth of cosmic consciousness. But every one of us holds within us that seed, that perfect place where, when we can get there, we realize that greatness. We can only talk about it from here, or think about it, or imagine it, or even say, I know that to be true. But to experience it means to enter into that state of cosmic consciousness, of samadhi. It's just huge. I think everyone in this room knows it's true. We all believe it. We all keep reading that poem, Samadhi, and saying to ourselves, that is the path that I'm on. But just like there's the seed of a beginning, a tree has been planted, a tree of life has been planted in Australia. And when I went there, as I was saying before, I knew immediately we are a part of something great right now. If we show up for it, and if all of you, who are many little saplings out there, and we're really rooting them on. I mean, I wrote them all a long note yesterday just to say, it's like cheerleading, Go to every satsang that you can. Do as much seva as you can. Tune in for Sunday service. Never miss the opportunity to tune into Jyotish and Devi. When I just gave them a list of about 10 do's, just really trying to help them see and remember while it's still fresh. If all of you do this, if you're willing, and it's exactly analogous to this reading, what is the great symphony of life? The great symphony of life is Om. That's what it is. That's why that song had to work again. We've kind of descended from that. We all know that. We've all seen this chart a million times, super conscious, into the world of energy, into the physical world. We know it. And we know that we are climbing that tree again, that Dambara sings so beautifully about. That's right, those words, the more I listen to, even today, I thought, wow, it's an experience like, have I ever really heard that song before? Of course, I've heard it 100 times at least, but being so fresh right now, so open, so uplifted and expanded, I could experience that song. And it's not me, like, oh, I could experience it. This is the value of pilgrimage. It took a lot for everybody who went on this trip. It was 2 weeks away, coming back knowing you don't just land and that's it, you're home. You're in a different half of the earth. You're in a different day. You're in a different time zone. Miss Barry kept reminding me before I went, be careful. Everything's upside down. He kept telling me that and to be careful about the koala bears. So funny. I was sending him a picture up. He had studied Australia. He knew everything there that I could be or should be afraid of in his mind. It's funny. But it is upside down and backwards. You're about as far away from here as you can get. So people had to leave their lives and do that. And it was an expensive trip, too. I mean, just getting there. So somebody's saying, this matters, it's worth it. And I'm saying this because I want to relate it to this reading, and I'm pretty sure we'll be able to get there. But if not, join in for part 2. The truth is, because of that willingness, because of the effort, because of recognition of the part we play in the great symphony of life and tuning into that, this is a secret of prosperity. So now, I know all of you. You all have your own way of living this. This was just an example of 7 people welcoming prosperity into their lives. Not prosperity the way the world thinks of it. In fact, sort of quintessentially the office, because money was just leaking out. But prosperity in the way we know it. And this group held so much power. I mean, it just did. You could feel it. Everybody was impacted. And we played with people. We dove under waves with people. There were talks that we gave, pranayama that we did. Not me, but the other 6 people sang. And they sang to people, not just in Ananda, but people who had never heard our music. And people were captivated by it. It was introduced by saying, the words are beautiful if you want to try and listen to the words, but don't worry otherwise. Feel the energy. And then this charming group of 6 Ananda singers came together. And really, it took a lot, and what came back at us was prosperity. It's exactly what happened. It was the courage to imagine that we were more than how we see ourselves every day. It was the willingness to do that. And really a very special journey for many reasons. I'm not even talking about Australia, which is almost otherworldly, almost. They happen to speak English, and, it looks like a westernized country, but so different. I'll save all of that for the satsang. But besides all of that, the spiritual energy that was put out and received, constantly being magnified. It was in the physical plane, very tiring. We were at it every day. We landed and we went right into it. And it's a big deal if you think of it like that. But not one of us suffered from fatigue in that way. I mean, we just went for it, which is very, not just impressive, it is, but it was so uplifting for me watching my Guru Bhais really not just rally, but bring the best of themselves with no ego there. So very much in tune with even the first part, but I'd like to stop when I'm saying I'll come back to it, because there is a lot of beauty in hearing some of Swamiji's words about Om and its vibration and what it means and what happens when we attune ourselves to that. And of course, it's one of the 4 major techniques that we've been given to practice. And I know that. I've taught it for years. But when I read this today and was thinking about that symphony and what it meant to become part of a blended symphony where the symphony became one, is really, of course, what happens here. Om, and the practice of the Om technique, took on such a different meaning for me. This is how we continue to grow and learn. I mean, as I said, for years, I've been teaching this. I've been encouraging people to do it. We just did it last week. I realized that people, they were coming to take Kriya, but they didn't really know a lot of the techniques, and they weren't practicing them. So I invited Lakshmi to give one of the classes where she chose a few techniques. These people were going to be taking Kriya the next day. But I said, go deep into these techniques. Tell them, why were we given these techniques? What do the energization exercises have to do with Kriya? What does Hang Sa have to do with Kriya? What does the Om technique have to do with Kriya and with our spiritual growth? And it was so beautiful. And then to come home and the next day be looking at this reading that is about the Symphony of Life. And very quickly, it comes to you that he's talking about Om. So if we expand and remember that we're part of the Symphony of Life, we will be spiritually prosperous. Of course we would be. That's the simplified version of the lesson here. But there's a lot of more words to go with it. But James, do we have the handheld mic here? Lakshmi has it. Lakshmi, if you felt to start, you could. Talk about this in relation, the trip in relation to this or this.
Yeah. Will you read the first line one more time?
Yeah. And it's just the first line, so imagine.
Yeah, exactly.
The secret of prosperity is recognition of the part you play in the great symphony of life.
Yeah. When I hear that and I think about that in context to the 2 weeks we just spent together, there were 2 thoughts that immediately came to my mind, and one of them just builds on what Shanti was already sharing. But, we were joking when this trip first started. For the first kind of 5 months that this trip had been planned, it was Shanti and I going. And then suddenly one day Shanti had the inspiration to say, we should have some other people join us. And slowly along the way, we collected this incredible little eclectic group of people who were all kind of coming together. And Urmila, who many of you know, who lived here for a long time, lived in Pune, was the last add-on, like, I'm coming, and just got herself on a plane and got herself there. And, much to what Shanti was just sharing, one of the first things I feel the essence of this secret on sort of the micro and the macro level in 2 ways. And on that micro level, meaning just this perfect little pocket of 2 weeks, everybody that showed up in this group of 7, and then everyone who came together, of course, there, but looking at our little group, we all had a particular role to play. And when everyone got there, there was such joy in just playing that role. So often the ego gets involved and we think, well, I want to be doing that, and why don't I get to do more, and how come they're better? And there was just none of that. Everyone just settled right into, and that's why I wanted you to reread that line, the particular role that was being asked of them, sometimes by Shanti, sometimes by the group, but more so just by God and Guru, by the role that was just right in front of us. And it created prosperity because it created just such joy and such bliss. And there was just such an ease and a personal growth for each person individually. But then also that allows you to come together and to uninhibitedly share Master's vibration because you're out of the way. And what you need is out of the way. And you're just so happy and easily flowing in tune, in harmony with what it is that you were brought there to do. Sometimes not even knowing. Most of us didn't really even know until we got there. Maybe you woke up that morning and didn't even know yet, but it was there because there was such an openness to it. And it created a symphony. It really created just such joy and such bliss. And sometimes that was simply just sitting down to breakfast with a group of devotees who live 3, 5, 7, 10 hours away. And all they want to do is sit and have breakfast with another devotee. And that was the most important thing you did that day. And it didn't matter who had the microphone, who was playing. For me, it's always music, because I always want to be playing the guitar better than I can or singing than I can. And it wasn't even there. The thought was never in my mind. I sing, and I'll sing with joy, and that's what I have to give. And so on the micro level, this reading just so perfectly fit in with those 2 weeks. But then also, as you were just speaking, Shanti, I was thinking about it on sort of the larger rhythms and the macro level. And this was significant because Shanti was giving the first in-person Kriya in Australia, and that is a seed that was planted by Swamiji decades ago. Swami came to Australia 3 times, I believe it was, and really wanted a work to start there. And Nara and Kalamali, who have the karma to be there now and living there, are really picking up the torch in a lot of ways. But we were a part of a larger symphony. This little group of 7, and Shanti, as the Kriyacharya invited to come there, were all playing a role in the orchestra that Swamiji has been conducting, and the seeds that Swamiji planted so long ago. And to just feel the next phase of that, the next little concerto, is that the right word? Is that, the next little concerto in the symphony, just one little step further in fulfilling what it was that Swamiji, and ultimately anything through Swamiji, was what Master wanted from us. It was amazing. While we were there, Kalamali, who she puts together the Touch of Light blog that Jyotish and Devi put out. This is the last thing I'll say, then I'll share the mic. And so while we were there, she was looking on the library for a picture to add to the blog, and she came across a picture of Swami giving a Kriya initiation in Australia. And she sent it to us and said, I'd never seen this picture before, but it was a picture of Swami.
When he was part of SRF.
Yeah.
So this was the first Ananda.
Sorry. That's a good point. But it was just, when I saw that, it touched my heart so deeply, because it felt like this beautiful, like sort of full circle moment that she would happen upon that picture days after this initiation happened. And it just felt like Swami just saying, way to go. Not to us, not to this group, but just to the energy, to Kriya, to Ananda, to the Guru. It just felt really beautiful. So I think this reading just so perfectly fits in with the part that we play, if we're willing to listen and to just flow in harmony with what it is. There's so much more I could say, but I'm going to pass the mic.
I just wanted to say, for the sake of accuracy, thank you for that, Lakshmi. That was so beautifully put, really beautifully put. I don't think Swamiji was doing a Kriya initiation there. I think he was just visiting as part of SRF, because it's the first live Kriya that was done there. So, but nonetheless, I just want to be clear here as we're speaking about both us and SRF. He was visiting while he was in SRF. He went to Australia. But it's still nonetheless Lakshmi's point that she found that picture while we were there of Swamiji. Yeah, I think she's looking, she can check it out. But anyway, I could be wrong. I just want to be clear.
A few thoughts come to mind. One is that in the beginning of this trip for me, was your invitation to be a part of it. And that's something I never would have initiated myself, because I didn't feel what role, would I have that you or someone else, couldn't do better, as well or better. So, so it was just trusting that, that this was something that was meant to be, and trusting your intuition, wisdom about it, and you're trusting Swami's you know? And so all along the line, and he's trusting Master. So, yeah, it's a line of trust in our Guru Bhais that is also part of the symphony and part of our role, you know. And then I was struck by how meaningful our presence there was to our Australian Guru Bhais. That they, you know, they live so apart from each other. They really live at a distance. Some of them are, and I didn't look at the map either, so I don't know actually how far away they are, but a long flight sometimes. So they don't have the opportunity that we do for community. And wow, did I just appreciate it so much more deeply even than I already do. But, you know, the fact that we can come together tonight, it takes us 10 minutes to drive here. You know, we get to sit in inspiration, in friendship, in truth, in the light, and we just get to do that so easily, you know. So that we brought that was really important, I think, to them in their consciousness, to see what does it look like, what does it sound like, what does it feel like, you know, was just something that we were able to bring because we have the blessing of that experience, and now they have the seed of that, and now I think, well, every little bit just helps them build their own work, you know, and expand. Maybe one day soon they'll have a center, you know. Let's see. And then, what was the other thing? Oh, and then the other thing was that, you know, that it was like a pilgrimage, and we all opened to it, I feel, and had lessons to learn, opportunities to learn. And they come along so relatively sweetly and easily through our Guru Bhais. You know, I mean, sometimes the lesson has to happen out in the world, and it has to be harsh and sharp and difficult and tragic. And sometimes the lesson can just happen among our Guru Bhais. And it's not that so much. It's easier, it's softer, it's right there. You have support. And, you know, you have loving friends to go through the challenge in the midst of. And I just saw that happen. It was my experience, and I saw it happen for everyone. And that's a huge blessing, too. So, yeah, I'm very grateful for the experience. It helped me to grow, and I love what you're saying about prosperity, the spiritual prosperity. I'm just hearing that in a new way tonight.
Thank you. That's so beautiful. I'd just like to comment on two things you said. One of the recurring themes as I was reading, you know how you prepare for a class for this, like this, you just find certain things that Swamiji or Master wrote about it. So I just sort of, in the Ananda world, Googled the word symphony, and I learned a lot about the Boston Symphony, but you know, I also learned a lot about how they use this concept. And one of the things, Master has, I don't have the name right on the tip of my tongue now, but I've referred to it a lot. He calls it the super duper highly advanced course for his disciples. And that was just the closest disciples that could take this course. And Swamiji was taking notes. So they're in the discipleship notes thing. So one of them, the word symphony came up, so I went there. I don't remember what the article was about exactly. It was about this. But the recurring theme was about developing our intuition and what that meant. Really leaving our head, leaving our thoughts, leaving preconceived notions, knowings, all of that, so that we could become progressively in life more intuitive, which is just that place of knowing. We've all had those experiences. I'm certain, I would just bet on it, that we suddenly know something and we know it's the truth. There's just nothing else about it. Now, of course, a lot of times we do that and it's more ego than we know, but some of the times it's actually pure intuition. So you talked about the intuitive process that it took, and also the way we each opened to develop that intuitive process more and more. It was essential because without any of these words, we were all aiming. We had our sight on the highest goal here. And then I'd just like to say a word about Kamala Devi, who for 2 weeks I've been calling Kalamali, and she hasn't gotten mad at me. And I hope I don't embarrass you, but she's a very beautiful yoga teacher. And she used to teach here, actually. Her classes were well attended. Viveka Devi shaking her head, yes. She's also one of the most calming people that any of us know to be around. There's this beautiful energy and aura about her. Now she was being asked to go out into the world, to the Lions Club, into big hospitals, and she was going to be leading full yogic breath, circle of joy, things like this, to people who have never heard this. Now, we're so used to it, but you even say the word joy in the world. It's an unusual word. You never hear people in the outside. They talk about being happy. They don't talk about joy. So these were new things. So I said to her the night before, I'd like to talk to you about it a little bit. I basically said, much of what you're doing in the world is you're leading people into meditation. So that kind of calming, soft, that energy is so beautiful. Now what we have to do tomorrow is go out into the world of these people whose energy is very rajasic. They've never heard the word energy used. And we have to help them energize in the appropriate way. We're not meditating at the end of this. So it needs to be more energy. It needs to be different. Just think about it. Be with it. And I just want to say, in the most extraordinary way, and this is, of course, you might do this a lot in life, and I don't see it, but it's not how I see you. She stood up there in front of these strange groups, and I'll tell you, at the beginning of some of these talks, it was not easy. One night I said, that is the hardest group I have ever spoken to, but I kept reading the group during my talk. Everybody noticed it. Then within about 10 minutes, I could feel a few of them, 15 minutes, a few more, till it turned out to be just a great success. But she had to stand up in front of all of these people and do these pranayama techniques, and just did such an amazing job. I mean, talk about expanding into a greater realm for each of us than where we often stay or who we are. We all have those ways. For somebody else, it might be contain your energy, but it was just so magnificent, without a beat's pause. It wasn't like, this is the way I do it, this is who I am. No, she heard it, and in her inimitable way, she went, I got you, that's why they laughed. And boy, you really showed up. And that was beautiful to watch, really beautiful. I mean, beyond the personal in a way, because as Lakshmi was saying, we were just, it was a group effort. we were just supporting each other. That's energetically, without the words. It was beautiful, so, yeah.
A few thoughts that came to my mind when I read this earlier this evening. One thing is the whole center that was set up for this goes into like 3 suitcases. So 3 suitcases come out, and the photos, the aisles, and everything, the table, there is nothing. It was at a retreat, and we had been to that room one day earlier to see what the space is like, and then the next day 3 suitcases came, and maybe a bunch of 15 people who have never met each other, at least none of us had met each other, and they all came together, and everybody unpacked the suitcases, and the altar was up, and like the drums became tables because tables didn't exist, and flowers didn't exist, so it was all plastic flowers and all of those things. And everything went so harmoniously, and just in just half an hour or something, I stood and looked at the energy of the room. It was totally different. And that made me realize, it's the form really doesn't matter at all. When the energy and the spirit that the people bring together, everyone was joyful. Nobody cared who was doing what, as Lakshmi was telling. Whatever was undone, anyone who was available will just do it. And it felt like that was the symphony that was going on, and you just needed to flow with it. And it just brought out such beauty, and that's the room we did the Kriya. And over the next 2-3 days, the energy in the room just kept building and building. And I remember Nara was telling, every time they go to the retreat and spend even a half a day or a few days there as a group, the retreat owners tell them that there is a higher energy in the group, in the building now, and they can sense that. And it was just beautiful to watch that for me. And then another just personal experience. I'm relatively new singing in the choir, so for me it was also a learning experience of how you become one with the rest of the people singing. And it's not one voice versus another anymore. It is one voice. And I think I got to experience that much more deeply in this trip. And also to see when we don't do that, what happens, and when we do that, what happens. Just because we had different people with different varied experiences, and it was just so obvious. So I'm very thankful for that symphony. And then there was this other thing that I observed. Kamala Devi and I did a dance to O Master in one of the programs, and we had a few turns that we had been practicing here a lot. And the first day we went and practiced that in Australia, I couldn't do the turns as easily as I could do here. And I was like, okay, something is off. What is this? It didn't occur to me then. But then I had to just go within, probably do a few kriyas. And I was like, it doesn't matter what is different here, but deep within, it's the same thing. So let me do that, and then became a lot easier, just in that movement. But later on, I came back and I researched. It's a real thing. It's a physical force that makes the cyclones move clockwise in the northern hemisphere, and anti-clockwise in the southern hemisphere. So that was visibly affecting at least me when I was turning. But as soon as you center yourself, that doesn't affect you anymore, even though it's a real physical force that moves the whole cyclone. So that was just, I think, wonderful to know that the real symphony is at the center of your own being, and that's where you need to be if you don't want to be getting affected by everything else.
That is so powerful. We're just listening to, let's just turn it off, a few people's experiences, but every one of them just comes back to exactly the point that Swamiji is making. And I love, first of all, to be honest, I love that I can go home and tell Barry that story because he kept saying to me, did you notice everything goes the other way? He wanted me to watch sinks and see that the water swirled down the opposite way. And I said, it didn't. He said to me, yes, it did. And he said, you didn't look. And I said, well, I have to admit I didn't look. But I'm going to tell him that story because that is such a perfect example of finding our center literally only in the astral spine. And that's what we're talking about. Really, that's the whole point, ultimately, of this reading, of this song we listen to, that we have to be drawing all of the energy that would be out in the world, that any other person who might be twirling there would constantly be off balance or couldn't find it as easily. But as yogis, because we can come into that place that is not touched by physical realities, we're learning. I mean, when Swamiji says here, he's talking about the great symphony in life. He says, for life will sustain you if you attune yourself to its harmonies. And what he's saying is, if you can come all the way back in, literally he's talking about the sounds of the chakras and the fact that all of those sounds, as we climb the astral spine, by the time we're at the 6th chakra, they all come together and they form the sound of Om. And what is that sound? Is literally the vibration from which the whole universe is created. So he's saying the symphony of life is within you. Go within, get perfectly centered within, and you will always have your balance. You will be prosperous. I mean, it's precisely what he's saying. And Lakshmi, did you look it up? Was it a Kriya?
That's what the library says.
It is. Okay. It's interesting. They don't make sense to me once the first live Kriya, but he was.
That was through SRF, so I imagine this was the first library.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay. No, I doubt the library is wrong, so I wanted it on our recording that says Swamiji was there giving Kriya. That's interesting. I'm going to ask Jyotish and Devi about it too. But anyway, it's not the most important thing, but I did want us to be accurate, that's all. Swamiji speaks so much about what it means, literally what it means, to keep developing our intuitive faculties. Because, of course, the more we let go of our attachment in the material world, the more we can let go of what we want, what we think we need, the way we see things that is based in our ego, rather than coming from that soulful place. The more we let go of that, the more we can receive truth. Because, of course, that is what intuition is that immediate knowing of truth that is not being tugged on by likes, dislikes, desires, attachments. I mean, all of what keeps us in this body and all of what we all have, we just have them. We wouldn't be here if we didn't have them. And so it's just the nature of the way for us. But the more effort we make, it's like that beautiful line. Every effort you spend gives more life in the end, till our gladness in life's ever new. I think they've changed some words, but it's close enough. I mean, saying, keep making the effort, and what Swamiji was referring to as true life gives more life, really gives more truth in the end. So everything that we can do to develop that intuitive side that Kamala Devi was referring to leads us closer and closer and closer to being able to tune into this guidance of superconsciousness, of God's love. I mean, it's really of love, the love that is God. So he says, life will sustain you if you attune yourself to its harmonies, meaning, eternal life, really. Of course it'll sustain us. I mean, in this worldly way, we've all heard of yogis who don't breathe, yogis who don't eat, yogis who never sleep, yogis who stand like this upright through winters in the Himalayas at how many feet? And they're true stories. I mean, people are there that we know who are living, walking human beings that say, yeah, I saw them open the door. He had been there through the whole winter. And, just come out smiling. What is that? It's talking about the true life force that sustains us all. I'm just going to read, Swamiji says, no, this is not Swamiji, this is Master. In shifting from the conscious to the superconscious plane, your lungs must be breathless, your heart calm, your cells inactive, your circulation stilled, and you must be listening to the symphony of the cosmic vibration of Om. That's a really powerful statement. I mean, when you think of trying to have that be your state. But I think what's important for us is when we, this is how we get inspired to do things. I had an inspiration last year that I felt to start leading these Kriya reviews. So in rotating fashion, first Kriya, second Kriya, third and fourth Kriya, we just come together and there are reviews. And the third and fourth we hadn't reviewed. It doesn't matter what they are, just suffice it to say it's the next technique and the next. They're all techniques, just trying to get us there. I feel like masters out there saying, all right, you're doing it. Let me give you another technique. Go for it, you can make it. You haven't made it yet, here's yet another technique, which is really what he did in essence. But I prepared to review third and fourth Kriya a month ago, and it was one of the nights where we had those horrific storms, and we canceled the review at the very last minute. But I had already prepared for it, which for me means I watched on videos Swamiji and others teaching. I listened to Q&As, and that was just it. My third and fourth Kriyas just took off after that. I mean, they've never been this good. Same thing happened for me with second Kriya, and we haven't done first Kriya yet, but we will, and it will be just as true. So what's coming to me through this whole reading today is the depth and breadth of the usefulness of practicing the Om technique, which everybody in this room has learned, I think. I think almost everybody, let me put it that way. But such a simple technique, and anybody could learn it. You're basically just closing off your ears, resting your hand, and you're looking up into the third eye, and you're repeating Om, 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 and you're listening in your right ear to hear the sound of Om, which you may or may not hear right away, but if you go through lifetimes of not listening for it, you'll never hear it. Never. Most people in our worlds have no idea what we're talking about. They don't even have no concept of what that means, that there would be a sound, that this world was manifested through a vibration. But when we start reading these things, there's nothing new in anything. I could read to you 6 things that I start. I am going to read 1 or 2 more. It's not like there's anything new in it, but we hear it again. We're in a receptive mode, and it can be life-changing. And that's what happened. I mean, just think of it, 2 weeks. It's nothing. It's nothing. 2 weeks, there and back, almost before most people even missed us. You know, it wasn't like James has his hand up, he missed us. And I told him today, we missed you too. But it's just interesting. It's not about time. Master said that. It takes no time to be free. It just takes willingness, the right consciousness, the right energy, and in a heartbeat. And probably we've all read or heard stories. I remember reading a story of a woman, now a great spiritual teacher, but she said, you know, I was walking down a beach on the Pacific Ocean outside of LA, and I saw a light, I was called, that was it. She's like a regular housewife, you know, out walking her dog, trying to get home to the kids. It's just, it's not about time. It's about, as I say, those who have ears to hear, really, not as I say, as Jesus said. But anyway, so as Swamiji wrote here, each of the 4 techniques, energization, Hangsa, Om, and Kriya, he's talking about, helps one to commune with specific aspects of God. But the Om technique is the most direct in communing with an attribute of God, in this case, as cosmic vibration or sound. It is through cosmic vibration that we have come from God beyond creation, and it is through cosmic vibration that we will return back to union with God. Now, I'm just going to read one more thing, and then we'll stop and see if anybody else has any other comments. Now this, I won't even read the whole thing, but I just read the last sentence. He says, the last sentence, by meditating on Om, we gradually retrace our steps from outward manifested creation, we all know this, of course, back to unmanifested spirit. But then he says, Om is the bridge between human and cosmic consciousness. And I just love that image. Of course, when you hear it, you say, oh, yeah, I know that, of course it is. But, you know, listen to it. Om is the bridge between human and cosmic vibration. Beautiful, just so beautiful. And then one more thing. This is from a book that Swamiji wrote. I didn't know the book. And right now, because I didn't copy it, I can't remember the name of it. But anyway, it says, in life's great choral symphony, this is a voice that's talking to the main character. The keynote of the dominant melody is love. Without that keynote, there can be no music. There is dumbness where there should be sound. There is discord where there should be harmony. Love, the one vibrant tone to which the whole universe moves in tune. Love, the breath of God, the pulsation of his being, the glory of his work, the fulfillment of his eternal joy. Love and love alone is the web and texture and garment of blissful immortality. Isn't that beautiful? What a gorgeous statement about the essence of this path is love. It's the vibration of love. We could come to it in every class. If we get there, if we tune into the purest form of the vibration of love, we will feel in love with every other living creature on earth. It's true. It has to be true because it's right at the essence of all of it. The more we practice finding love, the more we will not just love, but become that love. and be part of the solution for everything that's going on this planet right now that is so painful, so complicated, truly so unbearably real. And I was just watching a little 5 minutes of the news while Barry and I were having some dinner before I came here. And there's a massive wildfire burning in Texas right now, in the Panhandle, massive. But the thing about it is this, it took off so quickly, and it's like this huge ring of fire. There's no way out. There's no way out. And so all of the messages that are coming to millions and millions of people is shelter in place. Now, can you imagine what it would take to show? And these people are posting things like watching this fire. You can't move. You can't get out. And it's 0% contained. And I thought, what would that take? How would I be if I was sitting? And that's my goal, of course, to be sitting in a place of total peace, total calm, pure love, so that I was in touch. The fire couldn't really touch me anymore. This is what was going on. That would be a real challenge, but it would be my goal. And so I said to myself, remember that. So, does anybody else have any? We have just a few more minutes and then we'll close. I always forget what time I'm supposed to end, but anyway, any other comments? All right. Beautiful. Thank you for everyone who spoke. Thank you so much. Beautiful way to learn our lessons. And thank you, Swamiji.